Continuation of our discussion, lesson number 13, lesson title, Computing Linear Relationship Using the Pearson R Correlation Coefficient. Lesson objectives, at the end of this module, you should be able to compute the Pearson R correlation coefficient, interpret linear relationship using the Pearson R correlation coefficient. Productivity tip, eat a healthy breakfast every single day. Eating a healthy breakfast has been linked to enhance focus and mental performance. This explains why successful students never skip breakfast. So always that's the most important meal in the day, which is the breakfast. Because you cannot um, learn properly daw if you don't take your breakfast. Pag walang laman ang tiyan, mahirap din na intindihin ang lessons. So also, don't forget to drink your water. So stay hydrated. Now, the correlation coefficients are used in statistics to measure how strong a relationship is between two variables, at least an interval scale. So there are several types of correlation coefficient. Now, one of this is the Pearson's correlation, also called as Pearson R. And this is a correlation coefficient commonly used in linear relationship. So, for example, you could use a Pearson R correlation to understand whether there is an association between exam performance and time spent studying in a coffee shop. So, this Pearson R correlation coefficient, you will use this one in your research soon. So in your survey, diba, for example, you need to understand whether there is an association between exam performance doon sa time spent studying in a coffee shop. So the person's R coordination attempts to draw a line of best fit through the data of two variables, and the person's correlation coefficient, or the R, indicates how far away all these data points are from this line of best fit. Now, if you're starting out in statistics, you'll probably learn about Pearson's R first. In fact, when anyone refers to the correlation coefficient, they usually talking about Pearson's. And in this last lesson, you compute the Pearson's correlation coefficient and interpret the linear relationship of the studied variables. Now, this is the formula, or the R formula, or the Pearson product moment coefficient of correlation. That is R is equal to, okay, N times the summation of X times Y minus the summation of X times the summation of Y divided by the square root of N times the summation of X squared minus the quantity, the summation of X squared times N times the summation of Y squared minus the summation of Y squared. So wherein R is the Pearson product moment coefficient of correlation, X is the observed data for the independent variable, and Y is the observed data for the dependent variable. And then see summation of the product of X and Y. So i-multiply nyo si X and then si Y, and then add all the product of X and Y. And then the summation of X, i-multiply ninyo with the summation of Y. So that is the product of the summation of X and the summation of Y. And then the summation of X squares of X. So all the X values, erase natin by 2. And also the summation of Y squared, or the summation of the squares of Y. So all the Y values, erase natin siya by 2. And the value of R ranges from -1 to 1. So hence, there is neither a value of r that can exceed 1 nor lower than 1. So it cannot be greater than 1 or not less than 1. So it is only between -1 to +1. And this is the interpretation of the value of r. So this is the table. These are, for example, these are the R or the Pearson correlation coefficient. And ito yung interpretation. When you get R is equal to positive or negative, the sign is indicates positive or negative. So it can be +1 or -1. If it's +1, it's a perfect positive correlation. If it's -1, that's perfect negative correlation. And then for the next interval, we have the positive negative 0.91 to negative and positive 0.99. If it's positive, it's a very high positive correlation. If it's negative, that's very high negative correlation. Next interval is from 0.71 to 0.90. If it's negative 0.71 to negative 0.90, that's a high negative correlation. If it's positive 0.71 to positive 0.90, that's a high positive correlation. Next, we have 0.51 to 0.70. If the R is 0.51 to 0.70, if it's positive, that's moderately positive correlation. And if it's negative, it's a moderately negative correlation. And then 0.31 to 0.50, that's a low positive correlation. And if it's negative, it's a low negative correlation. Then next we have positive or negative 0.01 to positive and negative 0.30. So the interpretation, if it's positive, it's very low positive correlation and very low negative correlation. And if the R is equal to 0, 0.00, and the interpretation of that is no correlation. So wala siyang correlation. And for the correlation, this indicates a relationship between two sets of data. So for strong positive correlation, as you can see, it's the opposite of strong negative correlation. So the data, if we plot this one, so parang nasa, so they are all in one line. Hindi naman siya totally in one line, pero that is a positive correlation. So magkakalapit lang sila and almost nasa isang line. And pag positive correlation, strong positive, yung line is from left to right. And then pag negative, it's from right to left. This one. And then weak positive correlation. Okay, so this one. They're still, you can see that medyo dikit-dikit pa sila. Pero there are spaces. And this is the opposite, which is weak negative correlation. So naiba lang yung sa line from left to right and then right to left. And then for moderate negative correlation, this one. And for no correlation, yan, the data are scattered. So kalat-kalat yung mga points. Now let's compute the Pearson correlation coefficient R. Below are the PG1 grades, or it is represented by X, and the PG2 grades of selected students. So yung X dito are the PG1 grades, or the first periodical grade, and the Y values are the second periodical grades. And there are 8 students. Student 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these are the given. And so, for example, student number 1, ang grade niya for the first grading or PG1 is 75, and then the grade niya for PG2 or the second periodical grade is 80. Okay, hanggang kay student number 8. Therefore, our N is equal to 8. Now, what we're going to do is we will apply the formula. So we need to solve this summation of x, summation of y, and then the product of x and y. The product of the summation of x and the summation of y. Now we create the table for that. Ito siya. Okay, so this is the x or the x values. And then these are the y values. So what you're gonna do to get the summation of x is to add all the x values, which is 75, 70, 65, 90, 85, plus 85, plus 80, plus 70. And that is equal to 620. So that is the summation of x. Now after adding all the x values, let's now add the y values. So 80 plus 75 plus 65 plus 95 plus 90 plus 85 plus 90 plus 75, that is equal to 655, which is the summation of y, or the total of all the y values. Now, we need to solve the x squared and y squared. So, ibig sabihin, i-raise natin by 2 all the x values and the y values. So, let's have first, yan, the x squared or x raised to 2. So, the first one, you have 75. So, ilagay ko na lang dyan kung paano siya na-solve. That's 75 squared. That means 75 times 75. And that is equal to 5,625. And then for the next one, we have 70. That's 70 squared. That's equal to 4,900. 65 squared, that is equal to 4,225. 90 squared, that is 8,100. And then 85, we have 85 squared is equal to 7,225. 85 squared, that is equal to 7,225. And then we have 80 squared is equal to 6,400. And 70 squared, that is equal to 4,900. And then after that, we need the summation. So, i-add lang natin lahat ng x squared na na-solve natin. So, 5,625. Add natin hanggang kay 4,900. And that is equal to 48,600. That is the summation of x squared, or the total of all the x squared value. And then after that, si y naman, i-raise natin by 2. So, square din natin 80 squared, 75 squared, 65 squared, 95 squared, 90 squared, 85 squared, 90 squared, and 75 squared. Ito siya. Okay, so that's 6,400, 5,625, 9,025, 8,100, 7,225, 8,100, and then 5,625. Ito yung mga y values. Okay, na-raise by 2 natin siya. So that means 80 times 80, 75 times 75. And then we need to add 6,400 plus 5,625 plus 4,225 plus 9,025 plus 8,100 plus 7,225 plus 8,100 plus 5,625. And the summation of y squared, that is equal to 54,325. And after that, yan, may isa pa. We need to multiply x and y. So 75 times 80, and then 70 times 75, 65 times 65, 90 times 95, 85 times 90, 85 times 85, 80 times 90, and 70 times 75. XY, ibig sabihin, you multiply the x and y. X tapos y. 75 times 80. That is equal to 6,000. Okay, so sinolve ko na lang din siya dito sa table. Okay, so we have 6,000, 5,250, 4,225, 8,550, 7,650, 7,225, 7,200, and 5,250. Then add all this and that is equal to 51,350. And that is the summation of x times y, or the product of x times y, that is 51,350. And no need to put actually this solving process in pag-multiply. You can actually put just the final answer, and this is the table for that. After solving these values, we can now proceed in computing the Pearson correlation, or the R. And this is the formula. So mag-substitute lang tayo. Okay, so this our N is equal to 8 kasi 8 students. And times, okay, summation of x times y, ito. We have 5,150. So 8 times 51,000, I'm sorry, that's 51,350 minus summation of x, that's 620, times the summation of y, which is 655. And then for the denominator, so is square root and then n, substitute the value of n, which is 8, times, okay, the summation of x squared, ito yung summation x squared, 48,600 minus the summation of x squared. So this is different kasi ito, the summation of x squared, ito yung total or the summation ni x raised to x squared, which is 48,600. Well, this one is the summation of x, and then erase natin siya by 2. So the summation of x is 620 and then raised by 2. So that is 620 squared, or 620 raised by 2. Times, okay, n, we have 8 times the summation of y squared. Summation of y squared, we have this one, 54,325 minus, okay, so it's different again. Summation of y, then raised to 2. So summation of y, that is 655 and then raised to 2. Okay, so solving that in your calculator, that will give you an answer of 0.949. Yan. And interpretation, there is a very high positive correlation between the PG1 and PG2 grades. This means that the grades in PG2 are very highly associated by the grades in PG1. The trend shows that those students who get high scores in PG1 will most likely get high scores in the PG2. 0.949. So, bakit siya naging very high positive? Balik tayo dun sa table. Ito, interpretation. 0.949, it falls under in the interval 0.91 to 0.99, and that is a positive. So the interpretation is very high positive correlation. So since it's very high positive correlation, so it means na the grades in PG2 are very highly associated with the grades in PG1. So it shows that those students who got high scores during the PG1 will most likely makakakuha din sila ng high score for the PG2. Okay, so that's for lesson number 13. So good luck on your test. The days you spent studying has led up to this day, and I know that you're going to do great. So do your best and believe in yourself.